There's almost no type of content that performs better and really brings people in other than storytelling. We want to watch a TikTok or a reel that brings us from point A to point B, no matter how crazy the journey is, because we need to know how it ends and how we got to this crazy part. So, storytelling can be so incredibly important for creating really great, engaging content. And today we're going to talk about a few different techniques that really will bring people through a journey and make you super invested in the story that you're telling in your content. I'm Kristen Buscan. I've been a full-time creator for over 3 years, and I've brought in over $350,000 from sponsored posts and content creation collaborations with brands so far. Social Scoop is the podcast where we teach you, the entrepreneurial creator, to turn your online influence and creativity into a profitable, self-sustaining business. One of the things that I wanted to start this episode off with is talking about how important storytelling is, specifically in vlogs. How many times have you watched a vlog that's like, come along with me? Okay, first we're going to do this. Okay, now we're going to do this. And then I did this. And you're like, cool. So you're just taking me through your agenda for the day, which sometimes, they're doing cool things. So it's very interesting to watch. But I think when it's just like a very average, everyday person doing a vlog with this like very average day, being able to really tell a story, I think brings people into the moment and makes them so much more excited to actually see what you're going to be talking about and be like more invested in the video. So let this episode just be a note to stop making your vlogs boring and actually tell a story within your vlogs. And we're going to talk about some different ways that you can do that. I first want to start off by talking about the 4 P's of storytelling. So, first we have plot, then purpose, people, and place. So, these 4 things really bring together a full story and allow people to be invested in it and really understand all of the context. So, the plot, what story do you want to tell? What is do it for the plot, right? Like, what is the story we're here to tell? The purpose is really what we want people to get out of the plot. Why are we telling this story? Is there a lesson? Is it entertainment? Is there something we want people to know after watching this video? What is the purpose? People, who are those characters, and how are they going to be relating to the audience that's actually watching that video? So I actually recently saw a video of this guy talking about how, or it was a girl talking about how she was like friends with this promoter at a club, and he was trying to get her in, and she like did something that pissed him off, and then he left him at the door, and it was like this big drama. The way she told the story was so great, and I was so invested. But I was just like relating to this story because I was picturing myself like in college in like promoter days when you would know promoters to go to clubs, and how like pissed off I would be in this situation. So like I really related to the character in this story, and I'm sure that so many stories that we hear, like it's really that point of relatability that makes us go, oh my gosh, I need to know like how this ends, because I would be like, insert feeling here. And place. So, what is the background or location? And again, does it influence the story? Does it influence the plot? So, keep these 4 P's in the back of your mind as we talk through a few of these storytelling techniques. I would also highly recommend you get a pen and paper, because I'm going to go through a lot. And I'm also actually going to do like a lot of reading word for word, because I really want you to get this correct. I don't want to be paraphrasing anything. So, the first one that we're going to talk about, the first storytelling technique, is called the hero's journey. This is what I actually see a lot in people's kind of like about me posts, or like, here's how I got from point A to point B type of posts. And actually in Social Suite a few weeks ago, we just did an entire workshop on creating like your origin story, and a lot of it was actually using kind of like pieces of the hero's journey. So the hero's journey basically takes us through how someone got from point A to point B and everything that they had to go through in that process. So the first part is called the ordinary world. It's the hero's normal life at the start of the story before that adventure begins. And then we get into this call to adventure. So the hero is faced with something that makes them begin their adventure. Maybe it's a problem or a challenge or something they need to overcome. So for these 2 parts, for myself, I might say, I was working a 9 to 5 job that I wasn't super happy in. And I got this feeling that I just wasn't happy anymore. And I wanted to sell this business and do something bigger. So that was kind of like my call to adventure. So, refusal of the call is the next part where the hero attempts to refuse the adventure because they're scared. I said to myself, okay, well, what am I going to do? Like, I can't just leave this business. Like, what am I gonna sell it and then what? What am I gonna do? No, that would be crazy. And I kind of talked myself out of it. So you have this refusal of this call to adventure. Then we have a meeting with the mentor. The hero meets a mentor who gives them something they need. This could be advice, training, or equipment that helps on the journey. For me, this was actually my who I call my mentor, my cousin, who very businessy. We have a lot in common in that we are very entrepreneurial. And so I sat down with her, told her, I really want to leave this business. I don't know what to do. I think it would be crazy. Am I crazy? And she really helped me actually figure out how I could price the entire business to get it to a point where it wanted to be, or we could sell it. So I had that meeting with the mentor. Then crossing the threshold. So the hero leaves their ordinary world for the first time and crosses the threshold into adventure. This for me is when I said, all right, I'm selling this business. I'm going to get rid of it and go off on this adventure where I have no idea where it's going to take me. I'm going to move across the country to Charlotte from Massachusetts, and we're just going to take this call to adventure. So that's crossing the threshold. Then we have tests, allies, and enemies. So the hero faces tests, meets allies, and confronts enemies. So they learn the rules of the new world. So this was me actually like moving to a new place and restarting a business where I had no idea what to expect. I definitely met a lot of tests. I made a lot of allies. I potentially had some enemies. And the enemy, I think, a lot was actually like myself or logistical challenges and financial challenges and things like that. Next, we had approach to the inmost cave. So the hero comes to the edge of a dangerous place where the object of the quest is hidden. And from there we go to the ordeal. So the hero faces the greatest challenge yet and experiences death and rebirth. So for me, this might be when I was going to restart a business that I had previously down here after I moved. I worked super hard to get it started up, and then it ultimately ended up failing before I started really doing my social media full time. And so this was kind of like a rebirth for me where I said, you know what? I can actually do something totally different and follow this passion that I had that I never thought was something that I could do. Then we have reward, which is also called seizing the sword. So after surviving this quote unquote death, the hero earns their reward and accomplishes their goal. Then we have the road back. I'm sorry. The hero must return back to the ordinary world. So you're kind of coming back to your roots, right? And then resurrection, the hero faces a final test where everything is at stake and they must use everything they've learned. And return with the elixir is the last one. So the hero returns home and continues the journey, bearing some element of the treasure that has the power to transform the world as the hero has been transformed. So while all of this is very like if you're reading like fantasy books or romantasy books, you like can really feel how this storytelling technique goes through all of these steps in an actual story, like an actual novel that we might be reading. But think about how this might apply to you. And it could be like your whole journey. It could be something really small. It could be me saying, I really wanted to start a podcast, and here's how all of those steps of the hero's journey applied to me starting a podcast, or literally accomplishing one task throughout my day. Like you may go through a lot of these steps trying to accomplish something very small, or again you can use it to tell your entire story. So this really takes us through the beginning, the feelings, like how you had this refusal, you were scared, then you got a little bit of confidence by meeting allies and meeting with a mentor, or going through these tests, going through these enemies, and then you really are tested, and you have the ordeal, you have this big situation that happens where you beat the enemy or you beat whatever it was, and then you kind of have this like new knowledge and you've accomplished something and you can take that with you on the rest of your journey. So that's like a pretty good overview of the hero's journey. I actually think this is such a perfect opportunity for you to create a pinned post for your profile based off of your hero's journey, especially if you're trying to sell your journey, right? Like one of the origin stories that we created in Social Suite was from a plus size creator of mine in Social Suite who she basically, like wanted to raise awareness for, size inclusivity and body positivity. And so this was this big journey that she went on. The enemies she was fighting was, the clothing industry where none of the sizes were in store and none of the sizes were, available to her. And what there was, it was all ugly and like stupid and gross, like nothing was trendy. And then, she got to raise awareness on this platform and like bring people together. And so that kind of really was a nice way of showing like all the things that she had to go through mentally, physically, emotionally to get to a point where she, is today. And so that origin story I think is so beautiful, but really kind of like brings the hero's journey to fruition there. So I think it's such a great opportunity for a pinned post there. Also, if you're interested in sitting down and kind of going through a workshop on how to create your origin story, we do have one in Social Suite. It's available for replay anytime you join in with us. And it actually allows you to come out of the workshop with your origin story written, which is really nice. So, the next one that we're going to talk about, the next storytelling technique, this is one I actually very recently learned about. I don't even know if I'm saying it right. It's called in medias res. So essentially, what this is, it's a Latin phrase that means in the midst of things. And it's a narrative technique where basically the story begins in the middle of the action rather than all the way at the beginning. So instead of you saying, like the hero's journey, how you start all the way at the beginning and then you go through, it would be more like you starting at the fight scene and then being like, and here's how we got to this crazy fight. So what's really cool about that is I think it definitely engages your audience like immediately because you're throwing them into the chaos, you're throwing them right into the middle, the crucial or dramatic moments without that like build up. And I think this technique for short form content works so well because we don't necessarily always have the time to get people to the really exciting part. So sometimes if we can start with that like gut punch right in the beginning, it's so much easier for them to actually pay attention to the rest of the story because they already know the craziness that's going to happen. Now they just want to know how you got there versus you starting at the beginning and like maybe they don't even listen far enough in to again get to that really exciting part. So the way that this works is the story is going to open with the events already underway. Like things are already happening. Maybe this is a conflict or a dialogue or some pivotal moment that's very central to the plot. Then we have context that is gradually revealed. So we'll start to learn about the background information, character relationships, prior events. This is all going to come through as the story unfolds. And again, really keeping our audience engaged and really eager to piece together all of this because they already know the drama, like they already know the outcome. And then you may actually dive even deeper when you get after you do all that background information and get to the point where the drama is already happening. You can unfold that drama or that conflict or whatever it might be, that pivotal moment even further. And when we think about the beginning of this video, that's where that hook really comes in. So you might be saying, when we go back to that story about the girl with the promoter, um she might start that video off by saying, I got left at the door of New York City's most elite club and here's what happened. And we're saying, oh my god, why'd she get leave at the door, like left at the door, I want to know. And then we can really learn about the whole process. But when she gets to that point where she actually is at the door getting told turn down or told no, that's when we can kind of unfold a little bit more of the context and really learn about the details of this story. Another example that I wrote down here to share with you guys, maybe the hook is we ended up stuck at the top of this mountain. And we're saying, "What the heck? How did you get stuck on a mountain?" And then you're going to get into the rest of the story and the how you got there and what you did to get unstuck from the top of a mountain. So that's the second one. I really love this storytelling technique. I think that for short form, this is probably one of the most intriguing. It's probably one of the most successful. Another one that I want to share with you that I actually have used in previous videos that I really love, you have to get very creative, is this use of like metaphors or similes. So you can tell a story by comparing it to something that might be more exciting or more relatable than what the actual meat that you're trying to tell of the story really is. And so I'm going to give you a really good example of this. So one time I went on a date with a guy. It was a first date, and we had met on Tinder. We went to an ice cream shop and we're sitting there, like good conversation. I was like feeling pretty good about this date. Things were going really well. He was like dressed really nice. He was definitely my type. Like, it was very cute. Obviously, this is before I was dating Andrew. And so we're kind of like nearing the end of the date, and he asks me if he can borrow $1,500 to get his car fixed because he, like wanted to be able to take me on a second date and needed to get his car fixed before he could do so. And he kind of explained like his money troubles and everything, but whatever, like asked me for $1,500. Obviously, I said, "Absolutely not." It was an immediate turn off. I was like, "We've literally hardly even talked. I don't hardly even know you. No." And I literally never saw this guy again. The real story is that none of that is real. The real story is of why you should not be cold pitching brands. And the reason why I tell that story that way is because that's actually very similar to what it feels like pitching brands, right? Like, it's someone that maybe they don't even know you, but you're coming into their inbox and you're asking to work with them, you're asking them for money, and they're like, "Whoa, we don't even know you yet. This is so sudden. Like, hold on, give us some time to get to know you, or why we should pay you, or you don't even know like what we have going on and if we can pay you." And that is such a boring story for me to tell you in terms of me being like, "Here's why you should not cold pitch brands." It's kind of boring, right? Like, unless you're really invested, then you probably aren't going to listen to that whole story. But this story about a guy who asked me for $1,500 on our first date, you're going to listen to. So that is an example of using a metaphor, or he used similes as well, but a metaphor here that is a lot more relatable, a lot more exciting, a lot more like shock factor, but really brings my point home when I tell you at the end of the video that none of that is real, but that's what it feels like when you're cold pitching brands, right? Like, it's really like, what? Oh my god, mind blown. It puts it into perspective so much more. This is another thing that I did very recently in an email that I was writing. So it was a workshop that we hosted where they paid $44 to get into the workshop, and then they got a free month of Social Suite, our private creator community, for free, included in the price of that. And what was really funny about it is in my email I was like talking about how I went to Aerie the previous weekend and they had a buy one get one free sale, and I really wanted like the sweatpants, but I could only afford to get the hoodie. And when I got to the register, the girl was like, "Oh, you know that the sweatpants are like free because you're buying the sweatshirt that's buy one get one free." And obviously I was like, duh, why would I not go get the sweatpants? I mean, they're free, right? Like, I'm literally going to go get the sweatpants. Of course I am. And so I went and got the sweatpants, checked out, and got like my buy one, get one free, had a great day. Now, I told this story in a newsletter. And then at the end, I said, "But actually, none of that is true. But that's basically what you're doing when you're getting your free month of Social Suite now that you already bought your workshop ticket." So, again, really put it into perspective for people. It's like, oh, duh, it's free. Why would I not go get the membership? Why would I not go get the sweatpants? It makes sense. So I actually like to use these metaphors frequently. I think you have to kind of really think about what they're going to look like. So sometimes it takes a little bit more brain power, but like, so fun. Such an interesting way to like to bring people through a journey. And the final one that I wanted to share with you today is cliffhangers. So this is where you are essentially going to, I would say, be starting a series, or this is going to be like a multi-part story. So you're going to end your content with a suspenseful setup so that you can leave your audience really excited and eager for more. I actually just yesterday, as I was scrolling through TikTok, I told you doom scrolling, I actually came across a video that was a really good example of this. It was a girl who said, "My dad has had this dog for X amount of years, and we're having a DNA testing party, like a breed reveal." And so they were going to reveal what the DNA test got for this dog's breed results. And she was like showing clips about how everyone was like guessing what the breed was going to be. Everyone in her family, they're all wearing like t-shirts with the dog's face on it. The dad is like 100% convinced that this is the breed of the dog. And like, of course it is. He knows his baby. And then at the end of the video, she's like, "And we're going to show you in the next video what the actual breed was." And I was like, "Oh my God." I got to the end and I was like, "Shut up. I do not tell me I have to go find another video." But you better believe at that point that I went and watched the other video. So she left us on such a great cliffhanger. And again, it was because I was really invested in the full story. She was like talking so much about how her dad had been so adamant that he knew the breed. He was like talking in the video, like he was wearing a shirt with the dog's face on it that was like, "This is the dog's breed." And then at the end, it showed his face when he found out that was not the breed. And he was just like, "Nuh-uh, like that's crazy. Like I knew my dog. I know my dog. What do you mean?" Like, and so you really got to go along the full story. It was super, super exciting. I was very invested in that. Another creator who I actually think very frequently does this super, super well is a friend of mine, actually, Michael Betzner. His handle is Michael underscore Betzner photography. One thing that I really, really love that he does, and I actually use this as an example in a lot of conversations about this, about starting series and about kind of these cliffhangers. He will take a video of the behind the scenes of his photo shoot, and he does very like eccentric, unique photo shoots. And you're always wondering, "Oh my gosh, what is that pose going to look like? What are these outfits going to look like? That location is like crazy. He's got these wild props." You have to know what these photos are going to look like. So you watch the whole video that's just behind the scenes. And then at the end, he's like, "Come back for part two where you can go watch, see what the actual photos look like." And you literally, if you're going to watch part one, you have to go watch part two. Like there's almost no choice because you're like, "Well, I'm already invested. Now I need to know what they look like." Right. So this is something that I love that he does this. And I think it's such a really great way for us to be more invested and like spending more time on your content, and also like knowing the format of the content. Like I always know that I can watch the video and then go find the photos in the next video. So I love that it's kind of like predictable in that way, and I can find what I'm looking for very quickly. So these are just four different unique storytelling techniques or concepts that I think would be so great for you to bring into your short form or long form content to immerse people in the content more and really get them engaged in whatever story it is that you have to tell, whether it's a big story or something super, super small. So I want to know, send me a DM. Which storytelling technique are you going to try next? Let me know, and I hope to see you guys at the next one. Bye bye.